Warhammer 40k is a vast and complex universe that has captivated fans for decades. With its grimdark aesthetic, profound lore, and unrelenting depiction of a galaxy embroiled in endless war. It is one of my favorite universes. I love its grimdark, sadistic, and full of horror setting, its expanding lore, whether it be the Space Marines, Eldars, Chaos Gods, or the Orcs. Although I love Warhammer Fantasy and 40k universes, I am really picky when it's about their games. There are tons, and I mean tons of different Warhammer 40k titles from other developers, but I can't seem to find a captivating experience. Perhaps there might be some worthy to mention titles out there. Still, most of them seem pretty mediocre from the outside. But I'm hyped for Space Marine 2. I played the first title when it was launched in 2011, played the campaign and the multiplayer modes back in the day, and I'm looking forward to meeting Captain Titus of Ultramarines 13 years later in his upcoming journey. If you have never played Warhammer 40k Space Marine, today I got your back, brother. If you know nothing about 40k or about the Space Marines, brother, I'll tell you what you need to know and prepare you for the upcoming sequel. I'm Arcadenaut here, and today we'll delve deeper into 2HQ and Relic Entertainment's Warhammer 40k Space Marine and the Ultramarine Chapter. Before talking about the story, the characters, and the gameplay of Warhammer 40k Space Marine, first I need to talk about the Warhammer 40k universe and the Space Marines. How this universe is built, how it works and is shaped. To fully appreciate Warhammer 40k Space Marine, one must first understand the universe it inhabits. The Warhammer 40k universe, created by Games Workshop, is set in the 41st millennium, a dystopian future where the Imperium of Man is besieged on all sides by different alien races like orcs and tyrannids, heretics to the Emperor of Man, and the malevolent forces of chaos. It is a universe where there is only war, and survival often comes at the cost of morality and sanity. The Imperium, a vast galaxy-spanning empire, is ruled by the God Emperor of Mankind, a near-dead figure kept alive by the Golden Throne, whose influence and psychic power are the only things keeping humanity from being overrun by its enemies. And within this grim setting, the Space Marines, or Adeptus Astartes, serves as the humanity's ultimate defenders. These Space Marines are genetically modified and heavily armored men. These warriors embody the Emperor's will. Their loyalty to the Imperium is unshakable, and each Space Marine belongs to a chapter. From Bloodraven to Space Wolves or Black Templars, each chapter acts as a distinct military organization with its own traditions, tactics, and history. Captain Titus, the protagonist of Warhammer 40k Space Marine, is a member of the Ultramarines, one of the most renowned chapters, known for their unshaken will, discipline, and belief in the Emperor. In the Warhammer 40k universe, Space Marines are designed to be the perfect soldiers in humanity's endless wars. Their creation is a process that combines rigorous physical and psychological training with advanced genetic engineering. The Imperium recruits candidates for this program, usually teenage males. It turns them into a nearly unstoppable superhuman capable of extraordinary feats on the battlefield. Many of these teenage males lose their lives during the trials of becoming a Space Marine, but if they ever become one, their life, their body, and their mind turn into a weapon of destruction for the Imperium. They do not ever retire or leave their chapter by normal means, and only in death does their duty end. As these candidates are typically chosen from the harshest and the most war-torn worlds in the Imperium, referred to as Death Worlds or Feral Worlds, their bodies become enhanced and modified. Basically, a Space Marine has 3 lungs, heavily developed bone and muscle structure, and extra hard to pump blood faster and keep these juggernauts alive in harsh and deadly situations. These are nothing like StarCraft Space Marines. Keep that in mind, since each chapter of Space Marines has its own unique gene seed passed down through generations, and this makes each chapter so different from the others. In Warhammer 40k Space Marine, we take on the role of Captain Titus, a seasoned Ultramarine who embodies the values of his chapter while also demonstrating the ability to think and act outside the strict confines of the Codex when necessary. Captain Titus and his squad find themselves on the Forge world of Graia, a planet dedicated to manufacturing weapons, vehicles and other war material for the Imperium. Basically, the whole planet is a vast factory. A Space Marine begins with an invasion by the Orcs led by war boss Grimskull. These greenskins seek to capture the planet's powerful weaponry and use it for their own conquest across the planet and even against the Imperium. Warboss Grimskull leads an Orc War, a war campaign specific to orcs, leading orcs to use whatever the gizmo they have to overrun the planet, destroying everything in their path. Given that Forge World of Graia is a vital planet, manufacturing hub for the Imperium's war machines, including the mighty Titans, Captain Titus and his Ultramarines are dispatched to Graia to stem the Orc tide and secure the planet. Imperial guards might be stationed also in Graia, fighting against the Orcs, but it's just Captain Titus and his two trusted men, Sergeant Sidonus and young Zealous Leandros, against hundreds, thousands, maybe 10,000s, millions of Orcs. Although the Space Marine starts with the invasion of Orcs, the threat becomes even more dire and more sinister during the latter half, but I will get to that later on. While the plot of Space Marine may seem simple on the surface, it delivers a 7 hours long campaign full of action, glory and gore. And it definitely seems like an ordinary daily life of a Space Marine. It does an excellent job of conveying the sheer scale and brutality of Warhammer 40k universe, from the massive industrial complexes of Graia to the relentless onslaught of enemies that the Ultramarines must face. The level design might seem bland and repetitive, and I totally get that. The industrial atmosphere of Graia does not change throughout the campaign, and we mostly journey through the tunnels, destroyed factories, bunkers while fighting against the Orcs' horde. At its core, Warhammer 40k Space Marine is a third-person action game, emphasizing a brutal melee combat that matches the taste of Warhammer 40k with a gunplay that resembles the Gears of War series. Combat mechanics are designed to make players feel like a true Space Marine, a one-man army capable of taking on hordes of enemies without breaking a sweat. Though even Captain Titus needs to take cover when an Orc horde attacks to replenish his shield, or do a glory kill to a stunned enemy to replenish his lost health. The core gameplay is built around a combination of powerful weapons, dynamic movement and visceral melee attacks. As for the weapons, both ranged and melee, they are all iconic features from the universe, such as the bolter, a powerful rapid-fire gun that fires explosive rounds, and the plasma gun, which delivers devastating energy blasts, or as for melee weapons such as the chainsword and the thunderhammer, they all allow you to get up close and personal with your foes. Delivering bone-crushing blows, obliterating them maybe, but unfortunately, Captain Titus can only change his carried weapons when he finds a weapon cache between the action sequences, so if you picked up plasma gun and sniper rifle called Stalker Bolter and wanted to change into Thunderhammer to crush orcs more personally, you need to continue your journey until you find a Thunderhammer. So freely changing the equipment is not possible, even for a Space Marine. However, one of the standout features of Space Marine is the Fury system. This system, again quite similar to God of War's system, which allows players to build up meter by dealing damage to enemies, and once activated, Fury enhances Titus's abilities, making him faster, stronger, slowing the time when using a ranged weapon, and so on. Fury system is one of the key abilities to guarantee your survival. If you ever feel that you're in trouble, just pop the Fury, do glory kills against enemies of man, and go up and personal. The Fury mechanic, the weapons, and all of their improvements are all mandatory upgrades that you achieve by continuing the campaign, so there is no upgrade points or missable items or weapons that you need to search for. It's those corridor, single player, all action kind of an experience with Space Marines. From here, I will talk about the latter half of Space Marine and talk more about the story progression. That means, if you're interested in Space Marine 2 and would like to know more about what happens in Space Marine, then this is your part. If you want to avoid spoiler and want to experience Space Marine by yourself, then you better skip this section. The narrative of Space Marine is relatively straightforward, focusing on the Ultramarines' efforts to stop the Orcs and protect a powerful weapon known as the Warlord class Titan. Captain Titus meets with an Inquisitor called Drogon, who sent a distress call to the Imperium, and Captain Titus helps him to secure a powerful core that could be used to eradicate all Orcs invading the planet. However, as they activate the weapon with Drogon's orders, a warp gate appears above Graia, and a more insidious threat emerges. The forces of Chaos, led by the Chaos Lord Nemeroth. Chaos is the antithesis of the Imperium, a malevolent force that seeks to corrupt and destroy everything it touches. Basically the nemesis of the Imperium and the Emperor. Captain Titus learns that Drogon was long dead before their arrival, and his body was operated by a Chaos demon under Nemeroth. Now Graia is full under attack of both Orcs and the Chaos. Captain Titus decides to finish the both sides rather than just securing the item and waiting for the fleet's arrival. As Titus fights against the warboss Grimskull and Nemeroth's forces, he begins to experience strange and troubling symptoms. For some reason, Titus can withstand the psychic abilities of Nemeroth and Chaos's influence, which normally means that he is well regarded as a candidate for a future Chaos Lord like Nemeroth. Well, although Titus shows no signs of being a heretic, there is this subcontext continuing during the encounter with Nemeroth. As the Chaos Lord attempts to ascend the demonhood, Titus decides to end this war by closing the warp gate as the campaign of Space Marine heads to a conclusion. However, one final important part is the ending scenes. Despite saving Graia and preventing a catastrophic disaster, Titus's victory is overshadowed by arrival of the Inquisition. The Inquisition is tasked with rooting out heresy and the corruption, and they view Titus's resistance to the warp with deep suspicion. Captain Titus, all alone, fought against the forces of Chaos, defeated Nemeroth and his Chaos Space Marines, and not affected by its influence. In the world of Warhammer 40k, of course, this can happen. A similar occurrence can be seen in Warhammer's Dawn of War title with Bloodraven leader Angelus, but it is something like a miracle. Again, with an unbreakable resolve, Titus accepts being investigated by the Inquisition, leaving the Ultramarine Chapter, until he appears in Space Marine 2. And if we go back to Space Marine's campaign progress, the addition of the Forces of Chaos adds a new twist to gameplay and breaks the narrative's repetitive fights against the Orcs, with more dangerous enemies like Chaos Space Marines appearing. Since these warriors are former Space Marines, you can expect them to also come up and personal to Titus, or even sending plasma bullets from afar while you are fighting against the demons. Warhammer 40k Space Marine basically brought what a Warhammer 40k fan would want to a table back in 2011, and I hope we get to feel the same with Space Marine 2 as well. As I mentioned before, the environments are also heavily inspired by the Warhammer 40k lore, with towering Gothic architectures, massive industrial machineries, war-torn landscapes, The scale of the environments often serves to remind players of the sheer size and the scope of the conflict, with the ruins of masked manufacturums and the hulks of downed tyrants providing a backdrop to the action. The lack of variety in atmosphere might seem repetitive. You might feel like fighting in the same ruins over and over again, and this is one of the weakest points of the Space Marines campaign. Although there are several different modes and variety of maps in the multiplayer, I have only sticked with the single player and finished Captain Titus's journey. I remember playing the multiplayer mode back in the day, customizing my own Space Marine, forming a squad of 3 and competing in Team Deathmatch, and I can't wait to play the same modes in Space Marine 2 as well. In addition to these modes, there seems to be online PvE content fighting against the Tyranids as well, so it might definitely be an experience worth checking out. Warhammer 40k Space Marine captures the essence of what makes this universe so captivating: the endless wars, the larger-than-life characters, and the constant struggle between order and chaos. Whether you're a long-time fan of Warhammer 40k or a newcomer looking to experience the universe for the first time, Warhammer 40k Space Marine offers a true Space Marine experience with lots of orcs to kill and heretics to purge. Captain Titus might not be the most memorable protagonist when compared to other series, but he sure delivers a true Space Marine experience. With the sequel on the horizon, now is the perfect time to dive back into the world of Ultramarines and prepare for the next chapter. The future is grim, the stakes are high, and the only certainty is that there will be war. There is only the Emperor, and he is our shield and protector. As always, thank you for watching today's video. If there is any other Warhammer title, either fantasy or 40k that you recommend, be sure to share them by the comments below. Any kind of support through Patreon and YouTube join are really appreciated, and I will see you soon in my next video.